I'm super excited for my next guest, NBA champion and ESPN's NBA analyst, Kendrick Perkins. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ashley. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Of course, thank you. I know you're so busy, so I'm honestly honored to have you on here talking with me. So I'm gonna jump right into it. What's going on with your GOAT, man?
Not you, right? Not you. Listen, one thing we should never be worried about is LeBron James, all right?
Okay.
He has never failed us. And look, people have to understand this is a unique situation, and LeBron always plays the mind game, right? First game, he was trying to get everyone involved. I tell you what, people better be ready for the night. They better be ready that LeBron is going to be aggressive. I got him going for 35 to 40 points tonight with the win.
And do you think a lot of that, besides LeBron, obviously he does want to get his teammates involved, but do you think a lot of it had to do with some of the rotations on the floor and not playing some of the right guys?
Yeah, I do. And then people have to realize that, Portland, they've been playing playoff basketball really since they got in the bubble. And they're a good team. They're not your typical 8th seed. But once again, I thought the Lakers defense was pretty impressive because Portland been averaging right around 120 points a game. Mm-hmm. The Lakers held them to 100. But, Ain't Dollar is phenomenal. But LeBron will be in rap form. I think he was just trying to get a feel, get his guys going because since the bubble, Danny Green and Caldwell Pope and all his shooters have been struggling. So, you play the mind game. That's why the series is 7 games, right?
Well, I think we all tend to overreact at first, right? Like I thought they were gonna sweep, and then I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna tread back on that a little bit, because you don't want to bet against LeBron. But then we also tend to have amnesia when it comes to Steph Curry, and now he's getting comparisons to Damian Lillard. And do you buy into all that, or is Steph still one of the best shooters we've ever seen all time?
He's the greatest shooter of all time. People have to realize that Steph made it okay for us to pull up for players to pull up from the logo. No one was pulling up from that deep until Steph made it okay. That was a horrible shot before Steph got into the league, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you got to extend your range. He made that. He laid that foundation. So Steph, by far, is the greatest shooter of all time and will go down as the greatest shooter of all time.
I don't like to always draw comparisons at all, but I did see something interesting go across my Twitter timeline the other day. Was at the end of the day, whose career would you rather have, CP3 or Kyle Lowry? I want to know your response to that.
Well, here it is. CP3, one could say, will go down as arguably one of the greatest point guards to ever play the game. Mm-hmm. Future Hall of Famer. We all know this, right? But at the end of the day, you got to look at Kyle Lowry. He's the greatest Raptor of all time, in my opinion. You're talking about a guy that he is the Raptor. I get it. Air Canada, Vince Carter, he made the Raptors relevant again. But when you look at Kyle Lowry and the body of work that he's done since he stepped foot into that organization, he is Mr. Raptor. And he got a chip. But see, once you get a chip with a franchise, that's separation. Because Kyle Lowry is a Hall of Famer.
I agree with that as well. I know also, I'm kind of jumping around all topics, but I do want to get your opinions on a lot of these different things. So also the Philadelphia 76ers have disappointed year after year. They have obviously Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, but for some reason, something's going on there. And I think there's a lot more than what meets the surface. So now speculation of trades are about to go down. Who do you think there's going to be a trade this offseason? And if so, who?
Well, Ash, listen, I follow you. You have a great basketball mind, and the first thing is to cut the head of the snake. We got it's time to get rid of Brett Brown. I don't like calling for people jobs, but it's way overdue, right? Guys don't like playing for him. You had a guy like Jimmy Butler who, when he got to Philly, he kind of called, Brett Brown out. Then Big Al called him out, Al Horford. And last night, even Embiid, in his press game interview, he was like, hey, you know, this is what we're doing in the drop coverage. I feel like we should be doing something else that's calling out your coach. In my opinion, you can't trade Ben Simmons or Embiid, right? Because you're not going to get back the value. You're not going to get back what you've given out. So I think you got to find a way to make that work. But if I'm the 76ers, I'm trying to get off of Al Horford contract and Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris has been horrible in the playoffs, right? We're talking about a guy that he's the highest paid Sixer. Like, how crazy do that sound? He's getting more money than Ben Simmons and Joel. Now, Joel need to get in better shape, but they need a new coach. I think Ty Lue would be the guy for the job. But I would get rid of Al Horford contract, and I would get rid of Tobias Harris contract.
Yeah, it's interesting because there have been some former players, not going to name names, that I have talked to who have played with the Sixers who have said the same thing, that it really is from the top down. And we see this, it's a trend in all of the NBA. When a team is not performing well year after year, you can't necessarily just look at the players. You have to see what's going on culture-wise and what's going on from that standpoint. And I know that you played. You also won an NBA championship. You've had to deal with a lot of pressure situations. So, you know, mental health is a big thing in the game right now, and I feel that Zion Williamson has taken a lot of heat, and he just turned 20 in July. Do you think the media sometimes, I mean, I know we have jobs to do, I know we're supposed to give our opinions, but do you think that maybe we can backpedal a little bit and try to maybe come from a little bit of an understanding that he is so young?
Well, it's hard because just like the media could build you up, they could tear you down. And we have to all realize that he was the most talked about basketball player, the most popular basketball player last year in college. That was over LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, everybody. Like, what he brought to Duke and the media coverage and all, like, he had more games on ESPN than a lot of NBA teams. So it comes with being the number one pick. And that's what I be trying to tell people. I haven't seen a player have so much pressure on him since LeBron James. And if I'm Zion, what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to LeBron James, and I wanted him to be my mentor. Take me under your wing, show me the ropes, show me how you address certain issues, show me how you handle certain issues. But one thing Zion has to do is look himself in the mirror also, and he has to address his weight, actually. He has to. Like, you can't play at 6'6", 6'5", at 280 pounds, not in today's game. You even look back at Charles Barkley. He was 6'5", but he was in shape. He was in shape, and the way that the game is moving, the pace of the game, it's not good for him long haul because you can't load manage him forever. But, you know, you got to surround yourself with the right circle of people. And no disrespect to mom and dad or whatever the case may be, but, you know, let mom and dad be mom and dad, right? Hire people that's going to have your best interests at heart, that's going to tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear.
How do you find those people? How did you go about finding those people?
Well, it was hard. You hit some bumps in the road. You know, you have a lot of vultures out there that are trying to take advantage of you. Especially as a youngster coming in. And we all come from kind of the similar background where we come from, you know, poor communities, poor households where, you know, millions of dollars are being thrown in our face, and we don't know how to, our life changed overnight. And so we don't know how to handle these situations. But luckily, you know, he's in a great situation. I'm going to tell you why. David Griffin is a great individual. Not only is he a good GM, he's a great person. And he's going to guide Zion in the right direction. I can guarantee you that. He's not going to sugarcoat anything with him. He's going to guide him in the right direction. But, you know, you have to be careful with who you surround yourself with. That's why, you know, I applaud LeBron so much, because people think, I've been around LeBron and Rich Paul, Mav, Randy, all those guys, they'll get on Bron. You know, it ain't no just, okay, nah, they'll tell Bron, hey, look, whatever, you ain't playing like nothing. You need to go do something, you know, and that's what you need. Or nah, you don't need to do this. You don't need to go to this party. It ain't a good look. Like, they're not afraid, and LeBron accepts it. So if I'm Zion, it's just about getting that right circle of people.
So I know for you, there's been, a lot of controversy, so to speak, between you and the players. So I've talked to Charles Barkley about this. I've also reached out to a couple of players just to kind of hear their takes. And, I think most people do come from an understanding of, like, you have a job to do, and your job is to speak facts, be unbiased. And yeah, you might hurt some feelings along the way, but, like, you played, what you have to say holds merit. So how have you gone about navigating that? And do you talk to guys beforehand to let them know, hey, this is what I'm going to say?
Well, first of all, as an NBA player, as a multi-millionaire, this is what you signed up for, right? You signed up. You're under the bright lights. We're going to talk about you. You can't be biased. You got to be authentic. You got to bring charisma. It's part of it. This is my job. And all the real ones know. All my basketball friends and my basketball family that I'm still close with. You can go down the list from Doc Rivers to T. Lue to GMs to LeBron, AD, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. They know I have a job to do. And they're going to play bad at times. And I have to talk about them, right? But at the end of the day, they also know that if they play well, I'm going to be the first person to praise them and give them more than roses. I'm going to give them daisies and all of the above. So it's hard, but the real ones understand. And I do have a relationship with them. So at times, especially when we have to talk about personal situations, right? Say something happened off the court and I have to talk about one of my friends on the next morning. I'll call them. And I have a conversation with them to get an understanding, and I let them know, okay, so this is what I'm about to go say on air. And I also would give them my opinion and say, hey, look, such and such, I didn't agree with what you did now, but, talk to me, and we'll have that conversation, and that's how we'll go about it.
Well, I appreciated what you had to say about James Harden the other day, is that everyone kind of ignored the performance that he put on without Russell Westbrook on the floor. This Rockets team, I mean, it might actually look like they could finally scrape one out and win a championship. Do you think if they don't win it now, is it over for them?
No, it's not over. It seemed like we're getting bored with James Harden. Like, the other night, he pulled out an impressive win against the Oklahoma City Thunder team without Russell Westbrook. And he had 37 and 11. He shot 54% from the field and 46 from the three, and nobody said a word. Like, we can't get bored with that type of greatness, and we got to appreciate that, right? But the Rockets do have a chance. They my dark horse contender, because if they get hot and with a healthy Russ and with James losing 20 pounds, and I've never seen him this focused in my life. On the defensive end, they have a real chance, because you're looking down there in the bubble and it's an AAU type setting. It's a rec type setting. It's not your typical NBA game, right? Guys are getting up and down, find the threes. It's really like, who can make shots? Who can make plays? Yes, you have to defend, but this style that's down there in the bubble fits Houston perfect. Right? So they have a chance. They actually are my dark horse contender. And the way that they played defense the other night in game one was phenomenal. Isolation, boxes and elbows, no driving lanes. They was helping the helper. If they could keep that up and keep shooting at a high level, and then adding another former MVP in this prime, Russell Westbrook, they're the only team in the league that got 2 MVPs on them.
I think they're gonna be a problem. I think them and Portland are both playing that certain style of basketball that, like you said, it's like an AAU tournament. So it's been, really exciting to watch. And I like James Harden. I think he's not only, a good player, but he's a good guy too. And I know that you played with him as well. Who were some of the guys that you played with who you could say were maybe one of your favorite teammates, or someone that maybe took you under their wing as a rookie?
Well, as a rookie, the great thing about it was that I came in as an 18-year-old, and I had a great group of vets that showed me the way. And it wasn't big name vets. You're talking about guys like Walter McCarty, Eric Williams, Tony Delk, Tony Batiste. Like, they showed me the way. Even Paul Pierce, he was young, but he still took me under his wing, and they showed me the definition of hard work and when to go out on the town and when to get your rest and how to do things, you know. And they it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And a lot of people don't understand that. And without that group, I don't think I would have had a 14-year career. By the way, Doc Rivers was a huge blessing for me because he taught me to be okay with who I was as a player. You know, I always tease Doc and say, man, you held me back from being a franchise or all-star. He said, no, Perk, I turned you into a winner. And that's why you had a 14-year career, because I accepted my role and who I was. A lot of guys that come in have trouble with that, actually. That's why that's why the average NBA career is 3.5, 4 years. Because they don't get it, right? They think that they're that guy. No, find something that you're great at and be great at your role. Be a star in your role. So, you know, it was blessed. And I think, you know, KG, when he got there, he was a great mentor for me, teaching me a lot, you know, sacrificing, hard work, defensive things on the tandems, like, you know, certain ways to, you know, work smarter but not work harder on the defensive end. And also met one person who is one of my favorite teammates of all time, and this may shock you, is Nick Collison.
Wow.
Nick Collison. Nick Collison is one of my favorite teammates of all time. He is a guy that never complained, whether he got 30 minutes, no minutes. He was the same guy. He showed up, worked hard every single day, always had positive energy, whether it was a win or loss, gave it to you straight up front. And on the court, he had your back 110%. Great guy across the board, one of my favorite teammates of all time.
Wow. I am shocked. I was not expecting you to say that. You played under Tom Thibodeau, and I know that he always has this bad rap, but I'm a big Bulls fan, so I was so happy when he came to Chicago and what he did for that franchise. I think a lot of people forget what he was able to do even without Derrick Rose on the floor. And I think all those guys really bought into him as a coach. But then we're hearing on the flip side that he he overworks his players and he doesn't give them enough rest. From your perspective, when you were being coached by him, what can you say about his style of coaching?
Well, I don't see nothing wrong with it. Tom Thibodeau is old school, and when I first came into the league, we was taping up for shoot around. Look, Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and Charles Barkley and all these guys grew up under old school, and they had long careers, right? You can't blame a coach for a guy getting hurt. Like, it happens, right? But Tom Thibodeau is a guy that he doesn't take shortcuts. He's a guy that's in the gym at 5 a.m. and leaving at 9 at night on off days, right? When we don't have games, he's in there doing his homework. He knows every player tendencies to the T, how to guard every player. There's no shortcuts with him. And that's why him and Jimmy Butler mesh so well. And Jimmy Butler is doing just fine. That's why Jimmy Butler was able to leave, you know, Chicago, and then he went to Minnesota, but it wasn't Tibbs' fault. It was just Karl Anthony Towns wasn't ready for Jimmy. But that's why he was able to leave from Minnesota and go fit in so well after he left Philly with the Miami Heat. It's the culture. Zero tolerance. Eric Spoelstra, the culture. That's what they do. They work hard. One thing about, if you look at the Miami Heat players, they all are in shape. You can't play unless your body percent is at a certain percentage. And Tom Thibodeau, he's a culture. Everywhere he goes, he wins. He's the definition of culture, and he's going to do a tremendous job for the Knicks. I can't wait for him to show the world. And you look, Ash, I get it, right? It's a new age. But you don't think Tibbs being out for 2 years he had a chance to look himself in the mirror. He's going to adjust how, if the great Greg Popovich was able to take a step back, Tibbs is going to do the same thing. I'm pretty sure they had this conversation before they hired.
Well, they had to have. I just hope that they let him do what he's there to do and they don't get in the way of that, because we know the Knicks have a tendency to do that. So I'm hoping that they make some of the right moves right now in the offseason. But I want to know, too, from your perspective, when we hear, coaches getting fired and, players getting thrown under the bus, like, how much is it a front office problem and culture problem? And then how much is it maybe a coaching or personnel problem?
It could be a mixture of both, because if the front office and the coach are not on the same page, that's a problem, right? Because now you have your star players that are getting paid now up to $40 million a year that could go over the coach head, and some could go over the GM head and talk to the owner. So that's why everyone has to be on the same page. That's why it's a players' league now, right? It's almost like, you got to have these conversations starting from the top all the way down to the bottom, that your players, especially when you have superstars, they have to, be in that room when it comes down to hiring their next coach. Like, they gotta have, some type of hand in or hands on with it. And it's just, I think everyone plays a part in it. The great organizations like the San Antonio Spurs, that even Oklahoma City Thunder, they haven't won a championship, but they always been in the thick of things, always in the playoffs, right? Because they do things a certain way. And guess what? If you ask anybody in the world, who is the Spurs owner, a lot of people will tell you they don't know, right? When you think of the Spurs, you think of R.C. Buford and Greg Popovich and Tim Duncan. That's it, because they just be the owner, right? Even with the Celtics, you don't know. You just know Danny Ainge runs the front office. The owners are letting the GMs do their job. The problem that comes in place is when the owners try to come in and not let the GMs do their job. Something like my Dallas Cowboys. That's why I moved along. But that's another story. I'm a Cardinals fan, by the way, anyway. That's my
okay. All right. Well, I'm not a Cardinals fan, but I mean, I am because I live here. Like, of course, I'm going to root for them, but I'm a Bears fan, so I'm like, it's depressing. A Chicago fan right now, across the board, besides the Hawks, it's just depressing times. But it's interesting that you say that about the owner, because I have heard a lot of things out here where the owner was going into the locker room and kind of telling these guys like what to do and how to play. And it's like, yo, you need to stay in your lane. Like, you've clearly, like, you don't play the game. You don't know the game. You just have the money. So that's where I think a lot of the problems out here in Phoenix stem from, is his inability to just like focus on what he needs to focus on and let everyone else kind of run the show. But yeah, I mean, hiring Monty Williams, I know that you've talked about it. I knew that there was going to be a culture shift immediately when I heard that his name was on, the top list of getting hired. Especially from what they had before. How big of a shift do you think that is, and where do you see the Suns going within the next 2 to 3 years?
It was huge, and I don't know how Monty. I think I don't know. First of all, I don't know why Monty was fired from the Pelicans. Right, he was the best thing for the Pelicans, but that's neither here or there. Great hire by my boy Jones, right? Because he did, I mean, like, Monty is like a Tibbs. He's a culture setter. Zero tolerance, go punch in the clock, go hold his players accountable, but also could relate to his players. See, that when they won their last game in the bubble, and listening to Monty in his post-game talk with the players, it was phenomenal. It was a beautiful thing to listen to. You could feel the energy. You could feel the vibe. And now I'm looking at this Phoenix Suns team, and they're only going to continue to grow, get better, because they haven't been, they've been injured the whole year. They haven't had a full roster the whole season. They've been battling through injuries. Ayton was suspended, which was a huge blow at the beginning of the season. They went down to the bubble and went 8-0, and they went 8-0 without Kelly Oubre. That's what people not realizing. Like, he's a major factor for them. They went 8-0 without Kelly.
That says all you need to know. And that was another thing is, just a little inside scoop. I don't know if I'm going to add this in here or just take it out. But, when TJ Warren was here, I can just tell from body language and front office, everything. Like, I just don't think TJ wanted to be here. And I also think the Suns didn't want him here. And I think it'd be different now if TJ was here with Monty as coach. But I think there was a lot of stuff going on in the front office culturally, and just like I said before, the owner coming into the locker room, telling these guys how to play. Because there was a point where TJ was hurt. I think maybe in January or at some point he got hurt, and he could have came back, and he didn't come back. So I kind of knew that, all right, I don't think TJ wants to be here. And also TJ would not talk to any media. So when I saw Chris Haynes sit down with him and talk, and I saw him, post-game interviews, he literally gave us, I want to say, less than 1 minute in the whole season. He was in the mid-conversation with us and just walked away.
Wow.
He wouldn't talk to us. Like, he wouldn't even look at us, wouldn't say hi, nothing. So I don't know exactly the details of what was going on. When I have talked about it before, his friends were like, why are you, writing and saying that he doesn't want to be here? He loves Phoenix. I'm like, well, let him control his own narrative and talk with us then, because I'm just going to start making assumptions here because we don't know.
We don't know.
So that whole situation was really insane. So when I saw we should have kept TJ, I mean, yeah, TJ would have been a huge factor for them right now, but I'm like, we needed a point guard. That was the main thing. We needed a guy like Ricky Rubio in here. So just a little insight. I don't know if you knew any of that went on. It was crazy.
I didn't, and that's some great insight. And you're right, though, because if Monty was there, it would have been a lot different. It's just like Monty and Nate McMillan are similar, right? Mm-hmm. So, he's able – that's why TJ bought into his role. Like, with a healthy Pacer team, TJ was a role player. He still was giving you 19 a game, but Sabonis went out. Vic is kind of in and out with his injury, and now he's took on that role of actually being that go-to guy. So I get it. And, I lashed out and told the Sun, shame on you, right? And without really knowing it, but it was just, it's just when a guy show up like that and you look at it and how he got traded for a second-round pick and cash consideration for him to blow up, it's like, what? Yeah. What was you doing? But then the backstory, if he didn't want to be there, they had no choice.
I mean, yeah, it was disrespectful. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been a perfect situation for the both of them. Like you said, he's a perfect fit with how the Pacers play basketball. Obviously, it's like that grittiness that I think the Pacers have always been known to have, and I think that fits his style perfectly. So I know you do such a great job as an analyst with ESPN. I love hearing you every single day. Has a front office role ever crossed your mind of potentially doing that, or are you still trying to stay tweeting, unlike Magic Johnson, who was like, all right, I need to get out of here because I want to tweet. But have you ever thought about it?
Well, to be honest, the crazy thing is that I always wanted to be a coach, right? I wanted to be the next head coach that was a big man in the NBA that played as a center, because I feel like we don't get our just due. Like, the point guards and shooting guards are not the only people that know the game of basketball. Yeah. So I wanted to be the next head coach that was a big that played. So when I started doing media, I just wanted to be heard, like, to the organization so they could be like, okay. And I actually got a few offers for coaching jobs. And then I thought about it. I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of liking this media. I get to watch the game, which I'm going to do anyway, and then go talk about it the next day and still have, like, more than enough time to be with my wife and my 4 kids, because I missed so much time with them while I was playing. And now my oldest is 13, and now I'm like, I miss so much of his life. that I'm giving back to my 8-year-old and 3-year-old, that I'm playing catch up and I'm enjoying it. Like, I'm enjoying going out there and working out with them. I'm enjoying going to their practices. I'm enjoying my wife that I've been not around, although I've been probably getting on her nerves a little bit because I've been doing things that she don't like around the house, right? But I've been enjoying it, and being in that front office role or coaching role, you spend more time away from your family than you do as a player. So as of right now, I'm cool with the media, right?
I want to know who you got offers from. Or are you not allowed to share it?
Well, the Pelicans was one,
Okay.
Cleveland was two, Oklahoma City, and Minnesota. So those 4 teams, I did get an offer for a coaching job.
Okay, well, those are teams, a couple of them who are familiar with you because you did play for them. So, wow, that would have been awesome. But I love you on TV. Please don't go because then you can't tweet anymore. And we need the tweets. So what is the most, so I like to ask, out of the box questions. I mean, everyone probably asks you a bunch of basketball stuff all day. But I like to get to know you more as a person. So what was maybe one of the highest pressure situations that you had to deal with, and how did you handle it?
For as like in life or
Either one.
on the court? So you know what? The crazy thing is being forced to retire and not retiring on your terms, right? Because I always thought that I was gonna walk away from the game of basketball when I was ready. Even as a locker room guy, I was like, I'm a great locker room guy. I could keep getting these vet minimums. I'm gonna punch in the clock. And all of a sudden, you don't get that phone call in that summer. And a year goes by and your phone not ringing. You calling your agent, nope. Hey, he hitting you with, do you want to go overseas? I'm like, no. And so I gave it like a year and a half, 2 years, didn't get no phone call. I called my guy T. Lou, told him, hey man, can I get a training camp invite? With the Cavs, I'll go and try to prove myself, work my tail off. Would have had it, but they had a deep roster. So they was like, well, Perk, we want you here, but we don't have room. So look, would you go to the G League? And I was like, man, the G League, what? As a 13-year vet, it's kind of like, huh? And I was like, you know what? I got to do what I got to do because I wasn't ready to retire. My goal was to reach 15 years, which I didn't do, but I got to 14. I went to the G League, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me besides winning the championship or getting drafted, because it humbled me and it made me realize and appreciate the NBA. And I have so much respect for all the guys, everybody that's in the G League trying to make it out, from coaches to players to training staff to whoever. I have so much respect because the grind you have to go through in the G League, people don't realize. 6-hour, 12-hour bus rides, 12-hour travel days, sitting in the airport for 6 hours, practicing at a church, a community church, where you in the weight room and you lifting weights and you might have like a 60-year-old next to you that's like, can you share the machine? Like that type of thing. And it humbled me and it made me realize like, man, the NBA, staying in the best hotels, flying private, things to that nature. And also a quick story, like, so we played in the Cavs were on the road, and I played for the Canton Charge, and we played the Chicago Bulls in the Cleveland, in the arena. And so we got to go to their locker room. We was in the Cavs locker room, so I'm getting ready for the game, like normal routine. This is nothing new to me. And I'm looking at my teammates, and they in awe, like phones out, Snapchat, recording Instagram, like, hey, this Braun locker, this Kevin Love locker, like really tripping. So I'm like, I fall back and like, wow, like these guys really are amazed and thrilled. And actually, you will be surprised of how many guys are turning down 6-figure jobs overseas. I'm 6 figures. just to get a 10-day contract. They don't want nothing else. They just want to say that they was able to make a team in the league and get a jersey. And I was like, when I got back, so when the Cavs called me up at the end of the season, I appreciated every single thing, like from the cold tub to the training facility to, you know, the private jets, the luxury hotels, everything. I appreciated it so much. And I had to tell guys like, man, listen, y'all need to appreciate this because that G League is real. It got so real, I retired from the G League. I said I didn't want no parts of it no more.
Yeah.
Like, that's how real it was.
Wow. So do you think that we don't talk about that transition for guys when they do end up retiring? Is it something that I think maybe we need to check in more with them? Like, I don't know how the transition was for you, but I can't even imagine going from, you played what, 13 years you said in the league. So it's 82 games a season, plus all the travel, plus all the practices. How do you manage going from doing that so long to just having to live just a normal, ordinary life?
You can't. You go through a slight stage of depression. And if you touch on any former NBA player, they'll tell you the same thing. And it's not even about being financially stable. You go through a slight stage of depression because basketball is all we know. So when you have to adjust and transition to regular life and everyday living, yeah, your living is good, but it's like, man, I ain't hooping no more. I'm not in the bright lights no more. Like, nobody want my autograph no more. Like, you know, you have to adjust. And a lot of people don't realize, a lot of former players go through a slight depression. I know I did, where it was like, man, like, it's really over. Like, and you don't know them 13 years went by so fast. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I was able to go into this media world where it was like, okay, great transition, which it don't happen often, right? I'm blessed, and I thank God every day the way that it happened for me. But hey, it's something that need to be addressed. And this is why, not to be so long-winded, but this is why you see people, former players, you see them posting so much on Instagram, you see them tweeting so much, even like myself, because it's part of staying relevant. It's part of like, hey, I'm still here. Like, I'm Kendrick Perkins, or I'm such and such. Like, that's part of it. Like, you get accustomed to being this NBA player that you don't want the fame and the attention to go all the way away. You still got to keep some. And people don't understand that's a hard transition.
And it makes me sad because I'm not going to name names, but there's one guy out there who's always like posting stuff about like, oh, this guy's not relevant anymore. Why is he even talking? And I'm just like, the fact that people have to put relevance with what you do on the court or for your career, to me is just horrible, because like, I mean, I'm just a normal person at the end of the day too. And like, so are you. Like, you're just, right. You're a person. So I don't like look at someone like, oh, like they're so much better because they did this or did that. And like, I hate that we have to label that. And I hate that media has to be that way, or some media, not all of us. I mean, some of us are cool, but other ones are like, oh, like he's not relevant. Why is he talking? Or why is he posting? Or blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, why do you even have to say anything like that? Like,
right. It don't have to be that way. And I always tell people all the time, like you don't, this is what bothers me the most, right? That people say, oh, you wasn't even a Hall of Famer, you can't talk basketball. No, first of all, whether you played basketball, whether you was a Hall of Famer, whether you was an NBA player, if you're a student of the game and you know the game, real recognize real. You could speak on the game of basketball. You don't have to have certain credentials to talk about what you see and what you're watching and what you know. No, that's not how life works. Like, some of the best players in the world can't talk basketball. Mm-hmm. Some people are smarter than others. That's why, no knock on the great Michael Jordan, but that's why he was a hell of a basketball player, but not so good at being a GM. Mm-hmm. It's not a knock on that. Like, sir, it's just, It is what it is. That's why you have analytics. That's why you have media people like ourselves. Like, we work hard. We up late at night watching these games throughout our entire day. We watching possession by possession. We know the rules. We study it. We know the stats. So what makes, just because you were able to go out and be a Hall of Famer, or you was able to make it in the sports, in the league, or whatever the case may be. No, if you're a student of the game, you are a student of the game. Real basketball minds recognize real basketball minds.
Speaking the gospel over here, because I totally agree. I never played basketball. I'm 5 feet tall. I'm tiny. So I never played basketball. I was always a cheerleader, a dancer, but I grew up around it because my grandma, she was a big, she played, she coached, she rapped, she did everything. So that's kind of how I got into it. And I study it too. But if I don't have the answers to certain things, like I know that it's a phone call away. I can call one of the referees. I can ask about a rule. I could call up Amin Al-Hassan, who is super well-versed in that area too.
Absolutely.
I'll hit him up and say, hey, can I ask you a question about the salary cap? Hey, can I ask you a question about this? And I'll make sure that I do my due diligence in finding out the answers to the questions that I don't have. So also for you, I know that you mentioned that was a big impact on your life. What are two other maybe situations or events that happened in your life that made the biggest impact on you? It could be off the court, on the court, anything.
Well, one was that, stability. And I like, I've been with my wife since the 10th grade, going on 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so the stability part of that kept me grounded, because a lot of people, a lot of players could get caught up in the NBA life, and get caught up and get distracted. And having that stability when you come home, having that family, those kids, is just, it keeps you grounded, it keeps you humble. And majority of the time, the guys who have long careers are the guys that have a family to come home to. And I'm talking about role players, right? Guys that are role players. So when you're looking at that, I think that played a major factor in my life and on my basketball life. Also, being drafted by the Celtics, Danny Ainge was the best for me. For as, not just on the court, but he taught me so much off the court, how to be a man's man. He used to get on me about wearing earrings and that's not a man's man, and stuff like that. And he used to always keep it honest. Like, that was the thing I loved about Danny. He would tell me, he wouldn't sugarcoat it. Perk, you played horrible. Perk, you played great. I remember one game I had like 15 and 15, and he was like, you played horrible. You missed all your defensive assignments. I don't care about the stats. And he gave it to me straight. He used to tell me stuff like, Perk, you better keep playing hard. I'm going out to try to find somebody that's better than you, Rondo and Paul today. Like, that type of thing. And also, like, people always knock Danny saying that he traded me and broke up the Celtic team, but he had to trade me because he did it for me. Like, he knew that they couldn't afford to pay me what I was worth. He knew I deserved their money. And he traded me to a great organization with the Thunder, and they paid me $40 million before I even played a game. So people, and I spent 8.5 years with the Celtics. So people always like, man, Danny dropped the ball. He didn't drop the ball. Like, he just knew what was going on as a smart GM. Like, okay, I love Perk too, but as a business move, I can't lose Perk in free agency for nothing, and it's just, he touched me, being raised by my grandparents touched me. I lost my mom at an early age. She was shot and killed by her best friend when I was 5, raised by my grandparents. So, my grandparents were my heart and soul bringing me up. I grew up on the farm. Grandmother was a maid, made $60 a week. My grandfather made $300 a month cleaning the church. So, my whole motivation to get into the NBA was that I love the game of basketball, but I wanted to get them out of that situation. So my first NBA check, I bought them a house before I bought myself anything.
Wow. I bet that was probably the most rewarding thing that you've ever done. I mean,
oh, absolutely. And I felt like I did I reached my goal. Now it's time for me to work for myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I worked that hard to get to the NBA for them, but now it's time for me to work even harder to stay in so that I can make sure I secure my future.
That's amazing. And another thing that you said too, that I love the perspective you came from, where you understood why you were getting traded. I feel like a lot of guys tend to let their feelings and their emotions get involved too much when it's like, hey, this is a business. Like, you need to understand that. I think he did a good thing, not just for him and his organization, but he did a really good thing for you. And I think a lot of players tend to lose sight of that.
Yep, all the time. And, you have some bad organizations, but it's a business,
Mm-hmm.
just like we hear so much, like, people say Danny did Isaiah Thomas wrong, right? And I'm like, I get what y'all saying, but at the flip side of it, y'all have to understand what was happening, right? Y'all have to realize what's going on. And what's going on is that at the time, like, he was getting back Kyrie Irving. Like Kyrie. Like, any GM probably would have made that move. As great of a run IT was having, but you're getting back Kyrie Irving. You're talking about a guy that's a future Hall of Famer, like a guy that's arguably the best point guard in the league, and you have to make that trade. You have to. So, guys getting their feelings, but nowadays, the way the league is going, guys control their own destiny. So just the same way organizations are doing to players, players are doing it to organizations. Hey, I'm leaving. I'm gone. I'm taking my talents elsewhere.
So if you can control your own destiny and you can go back in the league right now, who is a team that you would want to play for?
Ooh. You know what? I would want to play for the Toronto Raptors.
Oh, I was not going to guess that you said that.
I would want to be on the Toronto Raptors. When you look at them and Nick Nurse, they are a family. Like, you could tell they root for one another. They have one agenda, and that's to win. They don't care who shines that night. They play the way that they play defense. You could always watch a team and tell that they enjoy one another by the way that they play defense.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're tied on the string. They help one another. They take charges. You could just see the camaraderie. And also, Ashley, when you see a guy like, say, for example, Kyle Lowry take a charge and he fall on the floor, watch the other Raptors on the floor. They're sprinting to help get him up. That's like, people don't catch that. That's certain little things that you have to see and notice, like, nah, they enjoy each other, you could tell. And I would want to be on the Toronto Raptors.
I love it. I mean, that'd be a great team for you. I would love to see that. And then when you were playing, who were maybe some of your toughest matchups?
Obviously Dwight. I had my battles with him. Zach Randolph, Tim Duncan. I had Shaq kind of in his older days when he was in Cleveland. But my toughest matchup, and when I had to guard, was Yao Ming, right?
Yeah.
7'6", so skilled. People didn't understand what he was doing at 7'6". He had turnarounds over both shoulders, face-up jumpers. He could handle it. He was physical. He was heavy. He'll dunk on you, block your shot. Like, he was so versatile at 7'6". People, like, because how he got hurt, people forget how dominant he really was. That's why he's a Hall of Famer. But Yao Ming was my hardest matchup.
I can't even imagine standing next to him, let alone having to play against him. So now that you are on the media side of things, if you had to choose maybe 3 people that you would want to interview, they could either be in the basketball world, not playing basketball, they could be celebrities. Maybe who is someone that you would want to interview?
So one, I would want to interview Russell Westbrook, because no one has ever got a one-on-one sit down with Russ, right? Football-wise, I would want to interview I mean, how can you not want to interview Patrick Mahomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would love to have a sit down with Patrick Mahomes. And then in boxing, I gotta have that one-on-one with Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I just got to. I just want to have that one-on-one 30-minute. If I'm in the media, like, cross from each other, like, let's have it. Like, I want to know, like, more about Floyd. Like, you see him on Instagram, but you know it's a bit, like, you could tell he's genuine. Like, I ran across him a few times, and he was like, "What's up, Perk? Keep up the good work." And, like, things like that, people don't, and I don't show it, because I don't like to be like, "Oh, I'm starstruck," but it was like, man, it's Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Like, but you could tell, like, even his uncles and everybody, like, the way that they embraced me and how they was interacting, I was like, nah, these some real cool, down-to-earth people.
You guys would have a fun interview, because I feel like you would ask him questions that people are afraid to ask. And I feel like he would answer. So you mentioned Starstruck. I know that, like, people assume, like, oh, like, you would never get starstruck, but is there anyone that you've ever came across where you were like, oh my God, like, besides Floyd?
Yeah. I came across Jay-Z and Beyonce. And it wasn't like at the game, right? So I'm 18 years old. I'm in the league. We're at the Beverly Wilshire. And I'm walking out my hotel room, going out just to walk down the street, just in LA. And it's noontime, and who I see coming out of the same hotel, Jay-Z and Beyonce. As an 18-year-old, I'm like, what? Like, that's Hov and B? Like, just think about it at 18 years old. Cause, like, you gotta understand, Beyonce probably is like one of the most powerful women in the world. Like, that beehive is real, it's 100. So, but nah, it's those two for sure.
Did you talk to them?
No, I didn't. Their security was too deep.
Okay, I figured. See,
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do if I ran into them, but my most starstruck moment, I don't really get starstruck at all. I've interviewed a lot of guys, but it was interviewing Derrick Rose, because I'm from Chicago, and he's just like an idol to me. Because I mean, I grew up in the 90s, so I really truly didn't get to fully understand what Michael Jordan and the Bulls were doing during that time. Like, I
Right.
knew, like, oh wow, this is huge, and I love Chicago and I love the Bulls, but D Rose was like the next guy up, where I really felt like, okay, this is what they were feeling in the 90s, that
Right.
love for the game and the team.
He
So
was,
man,
people don't understand. Look, I played against him in a 7-game series. Oh my, man. I mean, you talk about a problem. And you hate that he had the injuries, but if you're from Chicago and you don't love D Rose and you don't idolize him, you got a problem. You need to cleanse your soul, because he's everything that you want and more. He's humble, great guy. I mean, just all across the board. So yeah, I could see why.
I was shaking. But I was like, all right, Ashley, calm down. Like, the interview went very well, because I know how to, like, control my nerves now.
Right.
It was something that I had to work on to this point, but yeah, no, he was just a great interview. Like you said, a nice guy. And people, I feel like he's still playing really well. Like, when people don't realize his stats when he won MVP, that would never fly today at all. Like, I don't know if you remember, I think he was scoring like 26 points?
Yep. And look, he almost made the All-Star team this year. If you want to be real, like, what he was doing in Detroit was phenomenal. Like, it's part of the reason that Reggie Jackson got up out of there. I wouldn't be surprised if he's their starting point guard for the next 2 or 3 years.
Ooh. You know what? I never even thought about that, but that would be a really smart move.
Think about it. They paid Reggie. Reggie Jackson was on a 5-year, $80-some million contract. They traded him.
I never even thought about that, but I would definitely not be surprised if that does happen. I know we're almost out of time, but just a couple more questions for you. Besides basketball, what else are you passionate about?
sports-wise, I love boxing, right? I love boxing. I'm passionate about football. I love to go fishing. That's my thing. I'm a country boy. I love to go fishing. And more so, I'm a around the house type guy. Like we have barbecues, family over, play cards, play dominoes, play spades. That's me. That's me. That's who I am. I mean, I people say I got an old soul. You know, I'm not the type that I don't really go out on the scene. You know, I just love being around family and friends. I go to gatherings. Like if somebody having something at their house and it's a cookout and it's just good vibe, I'm going. You know, that's just me. And I love to go fishing. My other two sports are boxing and football, and that's just who I am, Ash.
Is there anything that you haven't done yet that you want to do, or maybe somewhere you want to travel?
Yeah, well, the thing is that I've been walking a fine line, and I've been scared, but so I'm big into animals, right? Like I'm a Discovery Channel watching dude, right?
Wow.
And they have this place that you could go travel off the coast of LA, I think it is, and you go like I think in between Mexico where all the great whites be in the ocean, and you know you go in a cage and they drop you down in the cage and you can see all the great whites. That is on my bucket list. But I'm kind of scared, but that's on my bucket list. But the only problem is that you travel so far out, it's like a 3-day event. You have no phone service. So it's something that mentally I have to get prepared for. Just being out in the open water, knowing that great whites are swimming below the boat. I don't have no phone signal. That's I got to get past it. I have to get past it.
You couldn't pay me money to do that. You could not even like you could offer me $1 million right now, and I would never do that.
Yeah,
I'd be terrified. Like, you know, maybe going to like swim with the dolphins or, you know, go to a petting zoo. Like, I'm good with that. I mean, I don't know, sharks, snakes, all that stuff just like terrifies me.
I don't do snakes, but to get in the cage and see great whites swimming around me, like, I've been thinking about it.
That's terrifying. All right, one more question for you. What is the impact that you want to have on the world?
The impact that I want to have on the world is that, you know, my thing is be confident. Be confident. Be okay with who you are, right? Like you don't have to live up to somebody's standards. And like when you walk into the room or you know, own it. Own it. It don't matter who's in there. Own it. Like you're somebody. Even like you don't have to be a celebrity, but you're somebody, right? Like nobody is bigger than no one else. And that's what I want people to realize. Like be confident in yourself and what you do. Like don't never think that you gotta shy away or belittle yourself for somebody else. No, be who you are. Be confident in what you do in a humble way, but be confident. And I think that because you know I see so many people they shy away and they, you know, even with the media stuff, it's like, Perk, man, how you so confident? And I'm like, what you mean? We're talking basketball. Like you gotta have like, okay, you got people on social media, you know, the Twitter trolls and whatever, the immature people, right? You gotta have tough skin as part of it. Everybody's not gonna like you. Everybody's not gonna have something positive to say about you. They talked about Jesus Christ. So what makes you think you're different? But just be confident in who you are as an individual. You know, like, let's not, you know, that's what I want to leave a mark on. Like, and that's what I tell my sons. Like, whatever y'all want to be in life or whatever, you know, like, don't ever act like, you know, when you walk in a room, I want you to act like you the man. In a humble way. And that's the same way I'm teaching my daughter. And I would tell anybody, like, be who you are.
I love that. It's definitely something I've been working on. Thankfully, I do have a good support system where if I'm feeling some type of way, like, hey, should I post this? Or, hey, should I like do this or do that, and they're just like, yo, like just do it. Like you need to just let it all out, just be who you are. But it's hard though, because like you said, when you are trying to make something of yourself and you're trying to do what you love to do, there's always going to be those people who try to bring you down, who try to tell you who you are as a person, who try to, you know, say a bunch of stuff, and I deal with it all the time.
But that means you popping. If you don't got haters, you ain't popping. And that's the whole thing, right? So, you know, at the end of the day, we living in 2020. Everything gets messed up in 2020.
Yeah.
But if you confident and you feel the need to post something and you feel like you got your facts or whatever behind it, don't shy away from it. Don't shy away from it. And I tell people all the time, again, when certain people that I comment to, hey, this is my account. This is my list. My list. You can make your own list up. This is my list. Period. So yeah, don't ever shy away from it. Ash, you do a great job. You know the game of basketball to the max. I'm like, okay, Ash, I see you with that hot tape. I see you watching the game. Like, don't do that. Like, nah, in this media world, like, I'm noticing, like, you gotta have a certain swag about yourself. And that's the thing that I love about Stephen A. Smith. You can call him what you want. He's very intelligent. He's gonna voice his opinion, and he's gonna stand boldly behind it. And he don't care what you gotta say about him. He don't care. He's making his living, and he's saying how he feels.
I love Stephen A. I also had a chance to meet him, interview him, go up against him too on ESPN First Take when they used to allow people to just submit something in. Right. So I've went off on him before, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, he's a great personality, just like you are. You're awesome. I love seeing you on my TV. Big Perk, this was awesome having you on. I'm so happy we were able to do this, and I really appreciate you.
Ashley, thank you, and you keep up the good work. All right.
Thank you.
All right.